They are unable to eat. They are unable to sleep. Their faces lose color as if they have seen a ghost. And in a sense, they have, as the mention of your name jars their nerves. You haunt them. When someone says, "Hey, whatever happened with?" You can feel the tremor in their voice, the creases in their guilt, and the pauses in their breath. Because inquiries are being made. Everyone is. They created a mess that is too loud to ignore. This is a reckoning, not merely a piece of gossip. Your tale has turned into a case study on karmic reversal, deceit, and manipulation. Your name gets lost in the midst of sidelong glances and sips at coffee shops. People who used to disbelieve you now whisper things in break rooms that they were too scared to express aloud. Late at night, friends exchange texts in which they analyze each other's actions, motivations, and bizarre twists in what they did to you. This was no accident. This was no accident. From the start, you were the mark. They watched, seething behind a smile, while you moved with power, generosity, and genuineness. It's not always obvious when envy strikes. Under the guise of praise and phony support, it can occasionally pass for admiration. However, behind closed doors, a karmic feminine energy, envious, entitled, and performative, started planning your demise as if it were their destiny. They researched you, imitated you. Then, under the pretense of being worried, protective, or just being honest, they attempted to erase you. However, the reality was poison. You weren't meant to prevail. It was not intended for you to shine. You were meant to break, fold, and vanish. They formed an implicit deal with themselves to destroy you until nothing remained to jeopardize their brittle sense of value. When everything came apart, the lies didn't begin. They began when they noticed a quality in you that they were unable to duplicate. You were creative, unaffected by the despair that held them. Without pleading for attention, they were unable to comprehend how your name had weight. They were unable to comprehend how you moved rooms without performing. When faced with actual power, they attempted to undermine it, which is what weak people do. Behind your back, whispers, strategic partnerships with your loved ones, manufactured chaos, intended to give the impression that you are unstable. Projection, disguised as worry. They made a web without considering that spiders are also caught in webs. They believed they could influence your fate if they could influence how other people perceived you. However, they never defined you. And now that their delusion is dissolving, people are beginning to realize it. The odd fixation, the control mechanisms, and the contradictions. The issue was never you. The threat was you, a danger to affront. And the reality, it's getting up now. You were previously selected, thus you were the target, shining already. They didn't realize how resilient a person who walks with purpose can be. They orchestrated your downfall, however they only disclosed their own. It wasn't petty. This drama wasn't superficial. You experienced a spiritual violation and monstrosity wrapped in deceit. They didn't simply go too far, they intentionally smashed it. This has nothing to do with miscommunication or conflict. It has to do with control. It had to do with power. Their goal was to change your story. And to do it, they turned the sacred into a weapon. They portrayed themselves as the helpless party. Emotional theatrics are wrapped. Some first believed them because they played the sympathy cards so brilliantly. However, they were aware of their actions. They practiced their suffering. Timelines that are twisted. Your truth was reimagined to fit their story. Their method of control was emotional blackmail. They were aware that the world would perceive you as the aggressor if they sobbed first. They were aware that your power would be questioned if you remained silent while displaying trembling lips and calculated fragility. However, they failed to account for something. Your light doesn't fit when someone attempts to wear it as a costume. It is burning, for light must be won by use of alignment, by being honest, through soul work. They eschewed the healing in favor of your brilliance. They sought your tranquility, but they shunned the suffering that created it. Therefore, they were unable to sustain your position when they took it on. They were burned from the inside out. You didn't strike back. You were not as chaotic as they were. Even so, you are the one getting up. For them, that is the reason it is all so awful. They made every effort to obstruct your happiness. In the hopes that you would trip, they threw shadows in your direction. However, you continued to walk, and now it's them who are faltering, vulnerable, and spiritually depleted, because using filthy hands to touch divine energies, costs are constantly involved. They're paying it now. Now people are noticing it, that there's something strange about them. Their energy no longer corresponds with their words. Their smile conceals a tightness, something frigid in their gaze. Authenticity cannot be faked indefinitely. Your intentions are eventually betrayed by your spirit, and that's precisely what's taking place. The force that they have been repressing, the jealousy, the resentment, the despair, is evident in each phony chuckle and phony compliment. They desired to be seen as the righteous one, the mediator, whoever tried their best. However, the truth tends to stick to the surface, regardless of how many performance layers you attempt to hide it beneath. People are beginning to relive the past from a different perspective. Moments that were odd, weird, or too convenient are what they are recalling. Now the discrepancies are too obvious to overlook. It's more than just words. It's the sensation, and words are not as loud as energetic truth. Once disregarded, that instinct is now indisputable. It makes sense why they felt uneasy with them. They're recognizing whoever let forth the loudest cry, who seemed the most injured, was, in fact, the one behind their back with the knife. Their stories are now untrue. They get blank looks in response to their defenses. The sympathy has dwindled. The same individuals who used to console them are starting to distance themselves, uneasy with what they're beginning to notice at last. The manipulation of emotions, the precise timing, the fixation on manipulating perception. Everything is becoming clear. How about you? You don't need to speak. Your quiet is powerful because it's not meaningless. It's intentional. As they struggle to keep up a collapsing facade, you keep moving forward, unconcerned. The sound of them unwinding is loud, but your tranquility speaks louder. Individuals are observing the disparity and making their own judgments. For a time, their performance was convincing. However, character is revealed through time, and suddenly the mask they so firmly held onto is disintegrating in public view. They are powerless to stop it. All they can do is observe as the reality they made a concerted effort to conceal starts to speak for itself. I have to pause this transmission for a second. Have you been selected? Show it. Watching videos about chosen ones is simple. Putting yourself to the test is a quite different matter. When I faced the Archons outside of our world, they clarified one thing. There are very few true chosen ones. The idea of us running into each other made them laugh. Here you are, however, viewing this message. Not everyone who claims to have been awakened is a candidate for the obsidian inner order. The real ones are us, those who have looked past the curtain, sensed the call, and convey the distinct frequency. Are you really one of us, though? I have given it my all for you. And to bring you even more, I'm going deeper. Don't only watch content from a distance. The true chosen ones act. Join our weekly group call to share your story. Our resident card reader can provide you with an insightful tarot reading. Find out if your experiences match the real indicators. Recognizing one another is the greatest fear of the Archons. Our frequencies increase when we connect and produce an unstoppable force. We will be live streaming to the full Astral Atom Network because of this. To locate each and every one of us, in the description below, click the link. It's time to put your doubts aside and verify your suspicions. You just want to wake up, right? Or have you really been picked? Show it. Come along. The Obsidian Inner Order has the confirmation you're looking for. They desired your life, your spirit, your power. However, they were unwilling to put forth the effort necessary to obtain it. They believed that being close was sufficient. That if they imitated your speech, mannerisms, or tone, they might turn into you, or at least take your place in other people's perceptions. Instead of admiring you, they studied you obsessively. Your every action served as a model for others to follow. However, what they didn't understand is, it is impossible to replicate energy, and one cannot borrow one's identity. It nearly worked at first. They persuaded people that they were exactly like you. Better than you, perhaps. They invaded your personal space, affixed themselves to your relationships, replicated every aspect of your existence. However, imitation that lacks authenticity eventually fails. And now everything is falling apart. Their emotions are out of control, unstable in terms of energy, bankrupt in spirit, because when you put on another person's skin, you forfeit your own. They desired your self-assurance without having to deal with your suffering. Without surviving your shadows, they pursued your radiance. They avoided the pain that created your light in an attempt to claim it. And now that the mask is coming off and the focus is waning, all they have left is the truth they have been trying so hard to hide. They're not you. They weren't. They couldn't be. When they were unable to become you, their obsession continued. It actually grew. What began as an attempt to replace you turned into a battle against your own existence. They would attempt to destroy your essence if they couldn't take it. They started to undermine you, defame you, dismantle what you created by working behind the scenes. But that didn't work either, because applause isn't the basis upon which you stand. It is based on the truth. Furthermore, when lies begin to yell, the truth remains unfazed. The catastrophe is haunting them now. They are unable to maintain the act. They are unable to keep up the persona. Their inner lives are in disarray. They are now being rejected by the same energy that they attempted to channel. They are hollow as a result of their attempts to use parts of you to build a new identity. Spiritually estranged, agitated, furious. Your name, your accomplishments, your tranquility, all of these things serve as triggers. You didn't engage in combat. You didn't participate. You didn't reply at all. Furthermore, that silence is more hurtful than any insult, because they wanted you to go so far as to justify their hatred. Rather, you got up, and they're going crazy because of that rise. They wanted to be you. However, they lost themselves instead. They are now helpless, unraveling, and forgotten, and all they can do is watch. No accusation ever made against you is as loud as your absence. You weren't begging to be taken seriously. You didn't beg for approval. You left. Additionally, during that silent departure, you produced such a potent quiet. People were compelled to face the reality they were attempting to deny. The dust has now settled. The mist is lifting, and people are beginning to remember one by one. Conversations are being replayed by them, moments, actions, recognizing the inconsistencies. The things you went through that were dismissed as drama are increasingly being acknowledged for their true selves. Strategic assaults. There is a general feeling of anxiety. Is the recollection of what transpired with you, this time with clarity in mind. Those who watched passively are now facing the consequences of their silence. Those who concurred with the laughter, nodded in agreement, or opted for neutrality are bearing the consequences of their complicity. Some people feel embarrassed. They recall how they turned a blind eye to the lies that were being peddled, how they kept quiet to keep themselves comfortable, how they failed to challenge the story that was being told to them since it was simpler not to. However, now, Your poise in the aftermath is making them confront everything. You never struck back. You never fell apart. You just decided to put your piece before the show. And everything was revealed by that decision. The way you carried it gave you a particular kind of power. The fortitude of someone who had a profound understanding of their truth. They didn't have to shout it out. You weren't weak by remaining silent. It was actually thunder, and those who saw the show but remained silent are still thinking about it. They want to know why you were viewed as the issue, when your energy was peaceful in every way. Now, some of them are attempting to go back, to express regret without using words, to see how things work out, to check on the state of your soul. However, not everyone is deserving of access. Nevertheless, the change is taking place. Individuals are starting to talk. In your favor this time, they're acknowledging their error. If nothing else, it's wrong to remain silent. They're retelling your story, reframed, fixed. And the most destructive ones, they are observing this development. The story is being rewritten. The restoration of assistance. The knowledge that the true narrative was revealed by your silence. They believed you would be buried if your name was tarnished. However, it only helped to prepare the ground for your comeback. You're not simply remembered now. You are respected, and the consequences of their actions still weigh on them. And the truth that will not be hidden. They weren't only against you. They developed an obsession. You kept them busy in ways that nobody else could. Each and every post you made, every action you took, each victory you reported, it was like a wound that penetrated them. They didn't study you to gain knowledge, but in order to compete. They didn't grow by copying you, but to pilfer. They attempted to ruin you, all the while covertly appreciating the very things they professed to detest. It is a disease to be obsessed, and it's eating them now. What started out as jealousy became into obsession. They were haunted by your presence, because everything they weren't was reflected in it. And the more your enthusiasm was not matched by others, the more they wanted to bring you down, the more desperate they got. Hatred, however, is toxic. The host is consumed first. They are the ones who are suffering now, depleted of their own poison. Fear, disgrace, paranoia, everything is catching up to them. Their emotions are collapsing, physically worn out, obstructed spiritually. They are constantly observing you despite the fact that every glance of your existence sets off an uncontrollable event. You've turned into an unavoidable mirror for them, a mirror of their unrealized potential. This was not pursued by you. It wasn't invited by you, but their shadows were exposed by your light. And now their passion is costing them dearly. They're suffering the consequences with their tranquility, lucidity, and sanity. You didn't yell. You didn't defend yourself in group chats or on stage. You didn't fight a conflict. You pulled out silently, elegantly, and your loudest statement was that silence. As they were engaged planning mayhem, you were occupied with becoming. Your name is still lingering now, not embroiled in controversy, but in discussions that are filled with reverence and amazement. The same folks who used to question you are beginning to say, perhaps they weren't the bad guy after all. You got up, while their own dishonesty caused them to crumble. The innocent can be vindicated by the cosmos in a certain way, not in a fury, but with a reward. And the proof is your life. There is no denying your glow-up. Whether it's your presence, your relationships, your peace, or your career, your entire being exudes the effects of surviving and the evidence of legitimacy. You didn't need to reveal anything. Everything was revealed by your achievement. They're observing. They are unable to turn away. Each moment you shine, the wound they made for you to flow out of is reopened. They are unable to comprehend your perseverance, how you continued to construct, how you continued to love. However, that's because they never comprehended that you never wanted retribution. You were occupied with starting over, from the ashes in which you were left. And now, your progress is their karma. Seeing you succeed is their penalty. They attempted to rob you of your freedom. What reverberates in the areas they used to control is your elevation. Their rumors have been supplanted by your development. You enter spaces where defamation used to reverberate, and now they resound with praise. You didn't simply make it through, you went above. As they worry about who will believe them, you're overly preoccupied with leading an accomplished life. Applause is not necessary for you. You don't require justifications. The proof is you. And each accomplishment you make, every bit of happiness you feel, each peaceful breath you take serves as a reminder to them, because they didn't succeed. You weren't ruined by them. You were exposed by them. Your blessings weren't blocked by them. They diverted them. Additionally, in doing so, they gave you the actual authority they attempted to undress. Now you get up, not to disprove them, but just because you were destined to do so. What they did behind closed doors is being publicly corrected. It's no accident. This is the justice of God. The very falsehoods they muttered in private are currently falling apart in the open, exposed because they are unable to hold back the weight of the truth. There is silence in response to them, where assistance used to exist, suspicion where pity once existed. They're stranded on an emotional level, spiritually, energetically. For them, nothing flows anymore. They are prevented from manifesting. Their power has diminished. Their reputation is irreparably damaged. In the meantime, your life is going forward full and quickly. You're growing, lining up, thriving, and you're carrying it out without taking revenge. Silent. This isn't a covert karma whisper. It's noisy, visible, unquestionable. It is visible to all. They see the restoration of equilibrium through divine order, and they're beginning to comprehend. Human hands are not required to mend anything. Punishment is not always a sign of justice. Occasionally, it appears to be peaceful, locating the person who was harmed and mayhem after the one who started it. That's what's going on right now, and that's precisely why people are still conversing. Thanks for watching.